Hello, one and all. Welcome back to Total Sport. It's me and it's Jacob. It's on the canvas. It's back as a duo. It's the first time it's been like that in a little while. How is everyone doing? How are you, Jacob? You okay?
I'm really good, mate. Obviously, the nights are long and it's very dark outside, but a Conor McGregor fight week, we're back.
So here we are again. It's Conor Mania. How are you feeling? Being back in a McGregor fight week.
Well, I was quite frustrated last year because obviously Fight Island came and there was fights every week and there was not very good cards last week because I know the UFC just had to fill the ESPN quota. But it was just like, Conor McGregor was there. He was on the sideline. He actually wanted to fight. He was there. He was in training. And it was just so frustrating they couldn't find the date for him, or they didn't seem to want a date. But now this Dustin Poirier fight is being touted for 3 or 4 months. It could have happened in November, December, and now first, pay-per-view of the year in America and in UK. I just think it's going to be an excellent fight, and there's so many intangibles that we won't be able to know until that first bell goes.
Yeah, it's definitely it's something that we've really been wanting to see is McGregor fight someone that's obviously quite high up in that lightweight division. I mean, as much as everyone loves Cowboy Cerrone, and plenty of people do, he had been TKO'd, I think, his 3 of his last 4 fights before he fought McGregor. So we all kind of knew how that was going to go. It's going to be a spectacular knockout from McGregor, kind of just to feed himself back into the win column. Outside of that, other than the Khabib fight, I should say, sorry, we hadn't seen him fight an elite contender in some time, really. So it's nice to see him in that realm again, in that serious realm.
And I think the reason why we didn't mind the Cowboy Cerrone fight was because it was all part of a season, wasn't it? As he kept saying, it was get Cowboy out of the way in January, then they can have 2-3 more fights later that year. Obviously, what happened? Did it transpire in the end? But I just think this is the first time where I see McGregor on it since Eddie Alvarez. I think the Khabib one was very aggressive. Khabib probably would have won anyway, but I just don't think Conor gave himself the best chance to win. And I think if he looks really impressive this weekend, like all casual and hardcore fans, I would just love to see a fully fit, fully focused McGregor against Khabib. And obviously, before we get into anything else, I was just watching an interview with John Kavanagh, actually, with Ariel Helwani, and he let slip that they're going to fight Orthodox, or they've been training Orthodox. And I don't know about you,
Interesting.
I find that a bit odd.
I do find that odd because obviously we know that left hand is an absolute weapon, a touch of death. I mean, it hits and sends you down. Unless you're Nate Diaz. I mean, it sent him down. It didn't send him out. But yeah, we know he's obviously been training heavily in his boxing for the last few years. Obviously, pre and post Floyd Mayweather. We know it's always been a staple of his game is his hands. So the fact if he's able to now do a double switch, that's frightening. If he's able to power his right hand just as well as his left. I mean, does that make him potentially the most dangerous striker in the division, if not potentially even the UFC?
I think for me, the way he just flows and it's just everything about him, for me, especially in the first round, he's the best striker in the UFC. Obviously, we know about Poirier that first 60, 90 seconds of a fight, he's very tense, isn't he? Or even the first couple of rounds, we saw against Dan Hooker. He's very tense, and he only came into it 3rd, 4th, 5th. So I think you'll see straight away. I think McGregor wants to knock him out within 60 seconds. I think you'll see if McGregor's still that light, fast twitch guy, and has he improved even more with the amount of muscle he's put on and the training he's done. So I think there's just so much just to look forward to just through that first 60 seconds alone.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned obviously Kavanagh's interview. I was watching an interview with McGregor earlier this afternoon. And he's, again, speaking about his boxing, didn't mention the Orthodox thing. That was a new thing for me. I've not actually heard that one, so learned something there. But he was talking about sitting down on his shots a lot, which is something in recent sort of history, at least, I can bring up. Tyson Fury spoke about it when he was fighting Deontay Wilder the second time around, saying how he wants to sit down in his shots to really get that power out. Interesting, definitely, because McGregor's always had that wide stance anyway, so he's always been quite flat-footed. So to see him really sit down on shots, I do have to worry for a slow starter that Poirier kind of is.
I just think he's got to be careful that obviously he's going to sit down and shot, but could that take away from his counter-punching ability, his fast twitch fibers? Is his speed going to go a little bit? I think we saw just before the Cowboy build-up, he was training a different way, like on the pads and stuff, because obviously he's got his old boxing coach back, and his hands were much higher up. He was holding himself higher. I think his feet were more narrow. So, but obviously we didn't really get to see much of McGregor's stand-up game against Cowboy.
Just saw his shoulders instead.
Shoulders and his leg. But yeah, I just think we probably will see a different McGregor. But in terms of that orthodoxy that Kavanagh said, he did tell Helwani to cut that out, but obviously
Oh, right.
hasn't been cut out. So whether that's mind games or
You never do with it. You never do know with him, do you? He
No.
could just be playing mind games. They may probably think, okay, if he's going to come out orthodox, I might switch to orthodox. I'll be ready for that. And then he just comes out southpaw and blasts him anyway.
It's just that first 60 seconds for Poirier, he's just going to be overwhelmed, surely, but just with everything, especially as he's already been knocked out already and he knows that he can get put to sleep, albeit in a lighter division.
And anyway, we discussed a fair bit of McGregor. Let's touch on Dustin Poirier. Of course, coming into this fight, he's been on quite the tear as of late. He did lose to Khabib Nurmagomedov, but who hasn't lost to Khabib in this stage? Everybody has fallen in front of that man. But he has looked impressive since that loss to McGregor. He's obviously gone up to a division in 155 where this is taking place. And he looks a hell of a lot better at that division. Maybe because it's not the fact that he's draining his body to quite stupid levels, getting down to 145. As McGregor's saying, he won't last the first 60 seconds. Do you think he will? Do you think it will go a bit further than McGregor's letting on?
I think it will, probably. I think they have respect for each other now. And I think Poirier's matured, hasn't he? You look at his resume since he lost to McGregor, Johnson. It's excellent. It's arguably one of the best in the lightweight division, isn't it? Even we saw how good Max Holloway was the other night. He's beaten Max Holloway, albeit at 155. But in terms of, it doesn't matter how much experience you've had. This is the first time getting in, or second time getting in the cage with Conor McGregor, who is bigger than a bigger star, carries a different aura to anybody else. I know Khabib, but Khabib's different. He hasn't got this. I don't know what it is about Conor McGregor. You are facing, the UFC in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned, Max Holloway, he really did put on a great fight against Holloway as well. I mean, it's not easy to go in and throw hands with Max Holloway the way those two threw hands in that fight. 155 or not, Max is a freak. But as we go back to Poirier, he's fought some serious who's of that division. Justin Gaethje beat him, and he's been a devastator as of late. Obviously, up until he fought Khabib, the same as everybody else. He beat Dan Hooker as of late, rising star. Looks pretty unstoppable going into that fight, and threw in the pocket with him, and didn't really look that bothered by it. He was happy just to sit in the pocket and throw hands with him because he knew he could take it. Eddie Alvarez obliterated him. I'd say in better fashion than Conor did. I'd argue that point that he decimated Alvarez in better fashion than Conor did. It was brutal what he did to Alvarez.
Yeah,
brutal.
But Conor McGregor was just punch perfect, wasn't it? It just completely.
Technically speaking, perfect. Yeah, technically speaking, perfect. But if I was Eddie Alvarez and I was to say choose which way you'd want to be knocked out of those two, I'd definitely pick the Conor one as opposed to the Poirier one, just because it looked so horrible. You need him in the face. He cracked him with elbows. He was punching him all over the place. That was horrible. He really just Conor picked him apart. Dustin tore him apart. There's the difference, I think, in those two kind of in those fights. But yeah, Dustin's really his resume is insane, and obviously who he trains with as well. Of course, we know he trains at ATT, so he's got some serious studs in that gym. Chief amongst them, Jorge Masvidal, someone that's also touted to fight Conor at some stage. I'd love to see that. Would love to see that. But it's really a completely different fight in that sense. Yeah, they're familiar foes, but it's such a different fight this time around. Different division, different time. I actually can't hand on heart say which way I think it's going to go.
I think the favourite has to be Conor McGregor simply because of what he did last time, but everything else he's gone on to achieve. But there are question marks more on McGregor than there are Poirier. I think Poirier can just go in there with no pressure in a way because everyone's expecting McGregor to demolish him within 60 seconds a round, for him to be better than ever. He's even saying he's better than ever. But basically, it's a fight between two people, and one of them's getting forgotten about. Really, it's the McGregor show, as everything is with him. But he's obviously Dustin's got that. He's getting donations to his gym, isn't he? Which is
the Good Fight Foundation. They're setting up a gym of sorts, and McGregor said he's going to pledge a donation to that. Excuse me.
I'm just not.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. I know where you're coming from. It's really hard to put down like what's going on, like with this fight again. Like it's similar to the Cowboy one. It's like you want to see all the trash talk and all the circus around the McGregor fight week, but how are you going to get that with no press conferences and the fact that they are literally just talking like pal? I mean, this came from a charity event. Funnily enough,
Yeah.
this whole thing came from a charity fight. So how'd you go into this one picking, someone's mindset, who's got the mental advantage over who and stuff like that? Because obviously that's been the staple of Conor McGregor's game for years, is having that mental advantage over his opponent.
I think you have to choose whether you believe the actions of Poirier from the last couple of years, how much the hooker fight took out of him, because we need to consider that too. He's not getting any younger. And the words of Conor McGregor, because there's no proof that McGregor is this good or how good he, says he is at the moment. So it's between the two, and me being just so susceptible to any type of trash talk. I even thought David Haye could be a three-time world champion. Now he's that good at trash talking. Honestly, he convinces me, and I think McGregor's probably convinced me now again. And I just can't see anything other than McGregor winning in clinical fashion, similar to Eddie Alvarez.
I'm gonna go with a different route. I think it's gonna be a slugfest 5-round decision. I genuinely think it's going to go all the way. It's going to be an absolute war. There's going to be a lot of action, a lot of blood spilled, plenty of close shave moments, but I think it will go all 5.
I'm going second round McGregor, okay? Let's have a bet. What are you going, Hass?
I'm sticking with it, 5-round decision, mate. I'm going with the unanimous decision, McGregor.
Okay, McGregor, okay.
We'll see what happens when we come back around to it.
Do it.
Let's do it.
I got the Joshua Pulev right, so I'm 1-0 up at the moment.
You are 1-0 up in that little series. I mean, I'm hoping the next time we come on, we have Jimmy Rivera. I've been talking to him as of late, so I'm just waiting for him to get back to me. So Jimmy, get back to us when you can, man. Waiting for it. But yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, Jacob, as always. I can't wait to see how this fight week plays out. But yeah, absolutely. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Make sure to drop a subscribe and a comment. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one in a bit.